blunt. Even if there's severe domestic violence, unless the children are actually injured in that incident, we cannot legally investigate. It's not considered child abuse or neglect in Washington. So even though mom, who has made obviously a horrible, horrible choice and decision to get her brother, I'm assuming, to beat up her boyfriend, as egregious as that is, and it needs to be investigated, unless the children were actually injured in that incident, Child Protective Services is not going to investigate. But what I strongly suggest that you do, I suggest that you do two things. I would suggest that you call Adult Protective Services on behalf of the uncle, because I agree with you. I think that's horrific, and I think it needs to be investigated. But I would also report it to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Chad, who obviously is a horrible person, it sounds like, to be blunt, even though he's just got out of prison for DV, clearly he's a risk to the children and to the mom. But again, under the law, until he actually leaves injuries or bruises on the children.
On the children. Oh, I see. So the mom has bruises, and there's nothing we can do?
Yes. So under Washington state law, unfortunately, and I don't agree with this on a personal level, but what I believe personally doesn't matter. Under the law, domestic violence between parents, even if one parent is injured in front of the children, our legislatures have decided that unless the children are actually injured in that incident, we cannot investigate. The children have to be injured. The only exception to that is if it's an infant and mom is holding the infant and dad is punching mom while they're holding the infant. That immediately places the infant at risk.
Okay.
But when it comes...
And those little girls are 3, and they are very spoiled in terms of always screaming to be picked up. And if they have been in her arms when he has been hitting her.
Well, again, it needs to be a specific incident. So unless these children have an injury, because they're not infants, they're toddlers, they're 3, unless they have an injury. So until or if Chad leaves injuries on these children, we cannot legally investigate. We're, just so you understand, we're reactive, we're not proactive. We're a reactive agency. We can investigate once a child has been abused or neglected. We can't investigate at the potential of something that may happen. And I think it's probably a matter of time before Chad goes off and does something, which is horrible. But again, I can only tell you what we can do under the law. But that doesn't mean that you can't, again, make a police report regarding the incident, regarding the uncle, and definitely report it to Adult Services. And I can give you that number before we hang up, where you can call for that. I am more than happy to take a CPS report, just so you understand what my function is. All I do here is take reports and forward them on to the CPS office, and it'll be on record. But in order for it to be assigned an actual social work for investigation, there has to be some kind of injury to the children.
Can I ask you, does I understand the thing about emotional abuse, but does the concept of neglect pertain in Washington? Is there any neglect that is so severe that it must be investigated?
We really do look at, are the child's basic human needs being met? If children are emaciated because they're not being fed, we'll investigate that. If children are locked out in the elements, we'll investigate that. If mom and dad lock them in the backyard, they don't have access to a toilet. There are times when they go to school and they reek of body odor and it disrupts their ability to learn. We'll investigate things like that.